A seemingly normal man wakes up to discover that he is the sole survivor of a horrific train derailment. Not only that, but he has come out of the ordeal completely unharmed. Released in the year 2000 and directed by M. Night Shyamalan, Unbreakable tells the story of David Dunn, played by Bruce Willis, a security guard who befriends the mysterious Elijah, aka Mr. Glass, played by Samuel L. Jackson, a man who is the opposite of David, one who is very frail and weak. Elijah tries to convince David that the mythology of comic books are real, or at least based on reality, and that David himself might just be a real superhero, where David starts to come to the realization that it might be his duty to protect people from evil and to use his powers to save the innocent, all while avoiding his own personal kryptonite: water. This movie is a brilliant take on the superhero genre, told through a personal lens with a creepy, supernatural, sixth sense aesthetic. So today we're looking into 10 things that you didn't know about Unbreakable. Let's check it out.
Joseph, don't take another sip of that water. I'll throw it in the trash.
But Dad...
Do it now, please.
Number 10. Shyamalan wanted superheroes. The studio wanted The Sixth Sense. Director slash movie-making lunatic slash genius M. Night Shyamalan wanted to make a movie that was a modern take on the mythology of superheroes. The story of superheroes and supervillains, but told through a real-world, realistic lens. In order to get the movie made, Shyamalan needed a studio who believed in his vision. Well, lucky for him, he had just made a huge hit, The Sixth Sense. Not only did that movie bring in a lot of money for the Disney company, making it the second highest grossing movie of 1999, but also a ton of accolades. So, in the wake of The Sixth Sense's insane levels of success, Shyamalan went back to Disney and basically said, hey, I've got this other movie I'm working on, Unbreakable. And Disney brought his spec script for Unbreakable for $5 million, which at that time was a record-breaking fee. He was also given another $5 million to direct it. Basically, Disney wanted to strike while the iron was hot and make another Sixth Sense. But that's kind of the problem. They wanted exactly that, another Sixth Sense. Shyamalan wanted to put it out there that Unbreakable is a superhero movie and market the movie as such, but Disney wanted the movie to look as much like The Sixth Sense as possible, as advertising the movie as another Sixth Sense would guarantee bums in movie seats. Almost like Disney were embarrassed about the notion of making a superhero movie. Oh, the irony of things to come. I can remember rushing to see Unbreakable because I loved The Sixth Sense so much, and it was advertised as being very Sixth Sense-ish. And when going to watch the film, I was completely unprepared. I didn't know what to expect from the movie. And while watching it, I was confused because the movie was going into tangents about comic books and Bruce Willis being immortal. And I was just thinking, where is this movie going? Maybe, had it been made plain and clear what this movie is, then maybe that confusion wouldn't have happened. Number 9. Unbreakable was written with Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson in mind. It was while making The Sixth Sense that Shyamalan told Bruce Willis about his Unbreakable project, and Willis was very interested in starring in it, probably because he had an inkling that The Sixth Sense would be a hit, so, let's do another one, thank you. In fact, Shyamalan wrote Unbreakable with Willis in mind as the heroic David Dunn, and Samuel L. Jackson as the evil genius Mr. Glass, the fragile Lex Luthor to David's Superman. Jackson first found out about Unbreakable at a casino in Casablanca, where he bumped into Bruce Willis, who told him about the movie and the fact that a part was written for him, and so Jackson was cast. Unbreakable actually marks the fourth movie that both Willis and Jackson starred in together, the other being Loaded Weapon 1, Pulp Fiction, and Die Hard with a Vengeance. Number 8. One major actor dropped out. Okay, so with Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson firmly locked in to play Unbreakable's two main leads, the next big task was finding the right actress to play David's strained but supportive wife, Audrey. Well, casting this part proved slightly challenging, as originally, Boogie Nights actress Julianne Moore was cast in the role. And yes, I can see her as this sad but relatable character. However, as production went forward, she left the part to star as Clarice in the Silence of the Lambs sequel, Hannibal. However, fellow actress Robin Wright took her spot. A few years earlier, she starred in Forrest Gump as Jenny. And I do feel like she has a lot of heart, even if her chemistry with Bruce Willis felt a little awkward and standoffish. But then again, they are meant to be a married couple on the brink of divorce, who are trying to work it out. So yeah, maybe it was meant to be awkward and standoffish. Number 7. Planes, Trains and Shyamalan Feels. So the big event that acted as a catalyst of what occurs in Unbreakable is the train crash at the start of the movie, where we learn that David Dunn is the sole survivor of a derailed train. Not only that, but there's not a scratch on him. Well, originally, David Dunn was in fact meant to survive a plane crash. But Shyamalan changed it to a train for 3 reasons. 1. Using a train felt more like something from a comic book. 2. It would be more believable if the character survived a train crash than a plane crash. And yeah, you know what, if it was a plane crash, that would have set up right away that there's something supernatural about David with no ambiguity or build-up. And 3. Well, Shyamalan just really liked trains. Speaking of that train scene, I think it is brilliantly filmed, and you can really feel tension and that something terrible is impending. I like how when David talks to the woman on the train, there is no cuts, and we're almost seeing it through a voyeuristic lens, with the camera constantly going from one actor to the other. And also the fact that he's hitting on her and his advances are a complete disaster also makes the scene awkward. And in hindsight, knowing that he's not fully separated from his wife and the fact that this lady is about to die makes it even more awkward. Yeah, this film is kind of like the king of awkward. And I also wonder if this was going for a survivor's guilt allegory. The sequence feels very Hitchcockian and is probably the most intense on-screen scene of a man being rejected. Yeah, once again, there are many awkward moments in this movie, which brings me to my next point. Number 6. Reality stranger than fiction. So in Unbreakable, a young Spencer Treat Clark plays Joseph, David's son, who kind of goes on this journey of discovery with his father. And I really found this kid to be annoying and unlikable. No, I don't think that's Clark's fault. I think this kid was written to be really annoying and unlikable, as well as being just plain sulky and weird. And nowhere is this more evident than in the scene where Joseph points a gun at his father in order to prove that his father is a superhero. Seriously, who does that?
An asshole.
He'll die, Joseph.
Just shoot him once.
Joseph, listen to what your mother...
If I had a rubber hose, I would beat you in.
The scene ends with David calmly convincing his son to not shoot him. But here's the thing, as insane as this subplot may seem, this very thing actually did happen in real life, where in the 1950s, TV Superman actor George Reeves turned up to a special public event dressed as Superman, where one little boy pointed a loaded gun at him and said that he was going to shoot him to see the bullets bounce off him like in the TV show, where once again, Reeves had to nervously coax this boy into not shooting him, creating a truly frightening moment. I wonder if Shyamalan knew about this incident and incorporated it somewhat into the Unbreakable script. As for the Joseph character, man, if that brat was my kid and he pointed a gun at me, I will ground him instantly and smash his PlayStation. Wait, did they have PlayStations in the year 2000? They did? Yeah, I'll smash his PlayStation. Yep, no more PlayStation for that whiny little turd. Number 5, 2/3 of the story was cut. Okay, so what we see in Unbreakable is actually the first part of what was meant to be a big grand story. a movie that was built on a 3-part structure, which is often associated with superhero movies. Originally, the 3 parts of Unbreakable were meant to see the hero's birth, in this case David learning of his powers and weakness of water, then David going against villains and saving the day, and finally an epic battle between his arch nemesis, in this case Elijah Prince / Mr. Glass. In fact, Unbreakable doesn't even end with any kind of battle against Mr. Glass at all. David just walks off with text explaining that David went to the authorities to tell on Elijah, which I always felt was kind of a cop-out. What happened here? Did they run out of money to actually film that ending or something? Unbreakable doesn't even feel like it has an ending of sorts, it just sort of stops. Regardless, Shyamalan decided to make the entire movie of Unbreakable the first act, and scrap the second 2 acts, making the movie entirely an origin story, with Unbreakable solely being about a man discovering that he's a superhero. It kind of makes you wonder what the second 2 acts of Unbreakable were going to be. As it happens, Unbreakable would eventually become the first part of a 3-part story, thanks to the sequels, The Brilliant Split, which didn't come out until 16 years later, and then Glass. I didn't like the ending. Number 4, shot to look like a comic book. Just like The Sixth Sense before it, Unbreakable was filmed in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which is where the movie is set. It was decided to make the movie look as much like a comic book as possible, with certain camera angles used in order to create similar scenery to what you would see in comic book panels. In the tradition of comic books, scenes with David mainly focused on the colour green, and scenes with Mr. Glass displayed the colour purple. I don't know if I would say Unbreakable looks like a comic book movie. Comic books are usually very colourful and vibrant, but I would definitely say that it has a graphic novel look about it. The glass cane that we see Mr. Glass use was actually Samuel L. Jackson's idea, and the wig we see him wear in the movie was designed to look like real-life 1880s statesman Frederick Douglass. Unbreakable is also one of those rare movie shoots that were filmed in sequence, and the stadium we frequently see throughout the movie was filmed at Franklin Field University, and the location would be used again for the 2006 movie Invincible. And the lady who played Elijah's mother, Mrs. Price, was played by an actress called Charlene Woodard, who was actually 5 years younger than her on-screen son, Samuel L. Jackson. Number 3, deleted scenes. So there are several scenes that didn't make it into the final film. One is David's wife Audrey and her son Joseph waiting to hear if David survived the train crash or not. There's a scene where David breaks down in the shower having just survived the train ordeal. Shyamalan said he cut it because he felt it was too dramatic this early on in the movie. There's also a flashback scene of Elijah as a little boy getting his arm crushed and broken after going on a carnival ride. What's interesting about this scene is I always have memories of seeing it in the theatres when I saw the movie for the first time. Who knows, maybe it's that darn Mandela effect again. There's a very fascinating scene where David tells a priest he believes that in surviving the train crash that he may have been chosen. But the priest is actually kind of offended, as he had a family member who died in the crash, and basically tells David that he's nothing special. Okay, thanks. There's also a scene of David and Audrey trying to rekindle their love while dining at a very quiet restaurant. And as you would imagine, it's really awkward and uncomfortable. One of Audrey's friends, Claire, shows up and says that she's glad that Audrey finally asked him out, followed by asking David what kind of lawyer is he. In other words, she got him confused with another guy that Audrey clearly liked and wanted to ask out. Oh, ouch! Okay, movie, we get it. Their relationship is on the rocks. We don't need Claire here making things even more awkward. Good one, Claire. Got any other marriages to screw up while you're at it? Pfft, typical Claire up to her usual crap. Also, I wonder if this scene was cut because the restaurant looks kind of fake, as it really looks empty. Who knows, maybe their food is just shite. Another scene involves Joseph laying in bed, where he tells his father David that he knows that he's a superhero, and that he won't tell anyone his secret identity, despite David's pleas for Joseph to just drop it. Seriously, what is up with this kid? And what makes Joseph even more unnerving is most of the scenes in this sequence he's shot from this weird, almost upside down angle. Then there was another scene that was to be a follow-up to the weightlifting scene, where David goes to the athlete's gymnasium at the stadium that he works at, to see if he really can lift an abnormal amount of weights, which he does, where shocked football players look on in shock and disbelief. Shyamalan said that despite the fact that this was a really fun scene to shoot, it was cut as he felt that the previous weightlifting scene left this one null and void, as that scene already said what really needed to be said. That, and it was just taking David too long to get to the point that he has superpowers. You know, being a little slow on the old superhero discovery. Number 2, the mysterious Disney number. Now here's an interesting little nugget of information I got from the website What Culture, in which while news footage of the train is shown on a TV, a number scrolls at the bottom of the screen. Now, some people with way too much curiosity and way too much time on their hands actually rang this number, only to be informed by a voice recording that this is indeed a Disney number, which is often used in Disney movies when a mock number is needed. Well, there you have it. Speaking of tiny details hidden throughout Unbreakable, then there's the fictional comic scene in the movie, Active Comics, which of course doesn't exist, but was designed to look like the real-life DC Action Comics. Yeah, I'm kinda guessing this was a copyright issue. Number 1, unable to escape the shadow of the Sixth Sense. Unbreakable was released in November 2000, and it opened up in the number 2 spot in the box office behind The Grinch. Wow, how depressing. The movie was financially successful, with it bringing in $248 million against a $75 million budget, but it still paled in comparison to The Sixth Sense's box office earnings of $672 million. Yikes. Unbreakable did get pretty positive reviews from critics, although the general attitude seemed to be, yeah, the movie is good, but it's not The Sixth Sense, or things like, The Sixth Sense was better. It's as if people just could not get The Sixth Sense out of their heads and inevitably made comparisons, even though, story-wise, Unbreakable is nothing like The Sixth Sense. I don't think the issue here is that Unbreakable was bad, on the contrary, but rather The Sixth Sense was just so good, so Unbreakable always had the disadvantage of being compared to The Sixth Sense, which really isn't fair. I also think the marketing of Unbreakable should have been clearer that this movie was a superhero story and nothing like the as mentioned Sixth Sense, in order to prepare people for what they were going to watch. There was no hints or clues in the marketing as to what Unbreakable actually is, other than its Sixth Sense connections. So really, Unbreakable could have been a perfect masterpiece, but no matter what, it was always going to be judged by its predecessor. However, over the years, as people have gotten over The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable has increasingly been appreciated in time. It also seems to be a movie that Quentin Tarantino really loves, as well as Time magazine ranking it at number 4 of best superhero movies of all time in 2011. So Unbreakable has been able to grow its wings and take off and fly confidently and to move out of the shadow of its big brother. Unbreakable is a powerful, compelling thriller that challenges the viewer to ask, what if some truly fantastical resources of the imagination can happen in the real world? All wrapped up in a movie that's beautifully told, visually stunning, and brilliantly acted, with a compelling sense of melancholy. Without a doubt, the effect that this movie has had on its audience is itself unbreakable. It definitely helps to watch Unbreakable without the Sixth Sense going round and around in your head. Then you'll see the movie does have confidence to stand on its own feet and be its own compelling movie. In fact, in later years, I've even heard some people say that they actually prefer Unbreakable to the Sixth Sense. So I think it definitely has aged more favorably than when it first came out. But you know what? I guess it's all about tastes. Anyway, I'm Minty. And let's face it, if I had a superpower, it would definitely be the ability to waffle on and talk too much. See ya!